back to another edition of the Omnist Hour. That incredible music is another Handel oratorio that's not very often performed, but I think will be performed more frequently in the future. It is his oratorio La Resurrection, Resurrection. And it absolutely is the most perfect music for the topic of the day. Before we launch into the really big news that I'm going to share with you, let's talk about the artwork behind me. I have to apologize to Wikipedia for not properly crediting this image, which isn't really that guy's at all. It's copyrighted by somebody else that you didn't credit, I guarantee. So sue me. The image on your left is the coat of arms of the Kingdom of Jerusalem, which hasn't been a kingdom for quite some time, but it's a kingdom that many have thought would come. The image on the right is what this should have looked like if it had been done properly at the time. And I'm going to explain real briefly why that happened. The image on the left comes from basically our species' obsession with gold. And it was thought gold was the most godly metal. If you had a lot of gold, God must love you. And well, we all know how many problems that's caused. The image on the right brings back an understanding of where we went wrong. You'll remember that in ages past, and even now, purple is considered a royal color. And the color came from these shellfish in, well, it's called Tyrian purple, so I think that must have been the primary habitat of those shellfish, the Murex shellfish. And the secret of making purple dye was a closely guarded thing by Tyre. That's what made that city so valuable and gave them enough money to make it almost impregnable. Alexander the Great spent, I don't know, a number of months besieging that city before he was finally able to take it. And that was the first time that city had been taken in quite some time. Okay, so purple at that time was coming primarily from the shellfish dye. The missing link there is that there are ways to make purple gold. You can find it online now. There are some Chinese merchants who are messing with alloys of gold that make purple gold. In fact, there are special alloys that have special properties that are related to the topic I'm going to be talking about today. So my suggestion before I tell you the specialness is that the flag on the right should be the new flag of Jerusalem. And if you want world peace, if you want all this idiocy and nonsense to end, go find one, go make one, turn it into a flag. If you don't like the coat of arms, put it on a t-shirt and wear it. Fly it, carry it everywhere you go. This is not a symbol of Israel. It is not a symbol of Islam. It is not a symbol of Christianity. It is a symbol of the God that's going to pull you out of the fire. And I'm going to tell you how that's happening right now. So anyway, share this if you found that interesting. Let's give it a try. I don't know, embellish it a little bit, put a caption on it, whatever you want to do, but use the basic idea. Okay? And I'm going to tell you that this is going to be the flag of the world. Sorry, United Nations, your flag is shit. This is the flag of the world, and it will be the flag of Starfleet, which is already forming under Space Force as they're integrating with our friends up on the bases out in space. Okay, that's leading directly to what I want to talk about. Let's see, let me get my cheat sheet here. We're going to call this episode God's Crusty, Chewy, Tootsie Roll Surprise. What's the matter with negative matter? Okay, where are we going with that? Let's go look at the incredible news that dropped just today from a couple of guys that I want to give big credit to. There we go. Let me shift my view over so you can see what I'm seeing. Okay, yep, you can see that. Okay, this just went up 9 hours ago or thereabouts on Professor Simon Holland's channel. A guy I hadn't heard of before, but his channel started showing up in my feed just a few weeks ago. Because he had an interview with Jack Sarfati, who, if you're in the UAP community, you know, is a very outspoken fellow in that community, and kind of pisses some people off, but I kind of had the feeling that if we got together, we would be like long lost friends. So Jack, you know, when we get a chance to meet, we need to go at it mano a mano, maybe with Simon along as our drinking third, and we're going to go out and have a little celebration together. At any rate, the news that they dropped was a very interesting, subtle hint from Jack about negative matter. Now, what you need to understand about this is negative matter is not the same thing as antimatter. Not the same thing at all. We know antimatter, if you take, you know, a proton and an antiproton and don't have something to separate them from killing each other, they annihilate and bang, create a bunch of energy. And the matter goes away. Now that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about anti-gravity and how that happens. And there's been a lot of research into it, and it was a very hot topic right after Roswell. And for a while, a lot of papers and things going out, and then all of a sudden, just total silence. And the word on the street was, no, it's just nonsense. Nothing to see here. Move along, folks. And, you know, people started building dick-headed rocket ships with conventional propellants and stuff like that. And thinking that, oh, there's no warp drive, there's no antimatter drive, so let's get to the stars the hard way. Okay, well, this is the topic we're talking about today is not the easiest way, but it is the easiest way that doesn't require a lot of spiritual perfection. And this is the technology that's used by species that don't know or don't trust the watchers, those orb things that people have been getting worried about showing up on around our planet. Okay, let me explain how this works. There is you can get me details of how Jack explains it on this their podcast over there. So I'm going to just quickly summarize that there appears to be a better explanation for gravity than what we've been told. Those of you who, have always wondered, well, why don't we just go flying off into space if we're spinning around and, we have centrifugal force and should just throw everything out into space? How do planets form? How do stars form? And gravity was a theory that was made up to explain that, based on an understanding of matter. Because no negative matter had been observed. Now, what negative matter is best explained starting from the standpoint of talking about fossil fuels, and very related subject, so let's talk about it. So, when things die on the earth, we know that they have a way of moving down or moving up. And we find that there are deposits of hydrocarbons deep under the earth. The theory about that has been that, well, there's, we're kind of like baking a cake here, and there's subduction zones and what's the other one called? The expansion zones, like the one that's maybe going to break Africa into two continents at some point. There's like these currents that recycle stuff, and that's how stuff gets taken down. Now, that's always, I spent a while in the oil and gas industry, and it was a little bit strange to me that if let's say that you had an animal die, and the body decomposed and parts of it turned into carbon derivatives, sludgy, oily stuff and gas stuff. We know the gas rises, and when we drill a well, if we find both oil and gas, they have to flare off the gas while they're pumping the oil, or else they have to separate it and take it elsewhere, because the gas will just go flying. Okay, and the mechanisms for that have always been kind of hand-waving arguments, which I don't know if anybody really ever got around to modeling it and making sense of it. And that's kind of where the whole thing was left at, and there was this idea, this is the whole basis for the idea that, oh crap, we're going to run out of, we're going to hit peak oil, and we're going to run out of these fuels, and so we better do something else. It's also the core of the idea of, oh my God, we've got too much carbon in the atmosphere, we need to kill it. Bang, 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 bang. I'm going to kill all of this nonsense and give you the solution right here. So listen up. I want to read you one of my favorite passages first from the Bible. You say, well, what's that got to do with science? You know what? It's all about science. Kind of weird science, but it's going to make a lot of sense to you pretty soon. And the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible. Pretty famous line, isn't it? This is a description of the karma cycle. Carbon cycle, karma cycle. As I've told you before, carbon, the element carbon, was the first one invented by karma. That's how it got its name. And karma is the mother of all cars, the mother of all engines. It'll get you anywhere. And it's got a number of ways to do that, because not every civilization is ready to get around to the stars. They need to work their way up to it. So let's talk about the carbon cycle. We know that, if we're a primitive civilization, we can chop down trees and make a fire and cook our food and warm our family, and that is one kind of carbon economy. It works for small tribes. If you want to move up the civilization scale, you can move on to using fossil fuels, fuel oil. And actually, fuel oil was very much used in the ancient world. If you know much about archaeology, in the Middle East, you'll know one of the most frequently found artifacts are these little oil lamps. Look like, like a sort of a miniature version of Aladdin's lamp. And they would put oil inside. Usually had a little place to put oil in the top, and then a little place for a wick. And you would dip the wick and make sure it was wetted, and then you would light the wick, and it would work like a more permanent candle. Same principle as candles, actually. The wax becomes the source of the fire, if you will. And some waxes actually contribute to making more long-lasting candles. This is technology, this is science. And yes, people were doing science thousands and thousands and even millions and billions of years ago. It's nothing new. This is developed technology that works for all civilizations, because all civilizations have to start on a pristine planet. You find one that's been terraformed enough to support carbon-based life, and then you get this carbon cycle going. And you can't just start at the finish line. That's not how it works. Each planet is designed to be developed in a certain manner that is godly, balances spiritual and physical technology. And this is the battle we've been fighting for a long, long time on this planet, is finding that perfect carbon karma cycle. Okay, so let's go to the next step. So basically, what happens when you die could be several things. Historically, cultures have buried their dead, burned their dead, left them out to be pecked by carrion animals, or in some cases, well, in some extreme cases, like the Aztecs, other civilizations that thought they were on the brink of extinction, would go crazy burning people and sacrificing them. And this was considered a superstition by most of materialist science, and looked, oh, those stupid primitives, what were they doing? Well, in fact, they knew what was going on, and they didn't understand, though, what the implications were, because they didn't know who was driving the tricycle. So they were thinking, well, kind of like today with the climate change bullshit. They were thinking they were doing the right thing, but they had the tricycle in reverse. Okay, so what am I getting at here? Souls have spiritual energy, and chosen species have a lot of spiritual energy. In fact, the first chosen species that developed on this planet, in this solar system, were elementals. They could convert spiritual energy to transmutation, to doing stuff with matter, with just a thought. And this is why there's always been this holy grail of alchemy, being able to transmute elements. Oh, if I could only figure out the right chant, figure out the right formula, whatever, I could turn lead into gold. Okay? That was a much studied topic, and nowadays we look back on that. Some scientists, stupidists, look back at folks like Isaac Newton that were doing that and say, man, they're so stupid. They were so dumb. They were so ruined by religion. Oh, we've got to stop that shit. Well, I'm going to tell you, you guys need to be spanked, but bad. Because you are the ones that are totally fucking wrong. And you have been destroying our civilization, gleefully thinking that you're saving it. How stupid is that? Okay, so let me tell you how spiritual energy works. So as I've been telling you, everything has a soul. The souls of human beings are not bound to our body. That's why when we die, the soul goes to heaven or hell, or gets buried in the ultimate recycling machine, the abyss. The hive mind, the Borg, that recycles souls and milks their spiritual energy, takes all their memories and turns them into negative energy. That's where the negative matter, excuse me. Well, maybe negative energy too, because negative matter can be used to generate negative energy. Okay, so where does that get us? When these Aztecs and Incas and all these peace-loving, gentle savages were madly slicing off heads and hands and arms and pulling hearts out of people. This happened in India too. That's the cult of Kali Ma. What they thought they were doing was appeasing their gods so that they would be merciful. The rite that they were doing was a sacrificial rite to the adversary, the Satan. They were actually generating more negative energy when what they needed was positive energy. And we kind of get this instinctively with this New Age movement that, kind of took hold in the 60s. The problem was that this positive energy in the New Age, everything is wonderful, non-duality cults that, the speak no evil, see no evil, or hear no evil, these three stupid monkeys who just look the other way when something's going on, like the tyranny that's happening in China, all the tyranny that happened in the USSR, all the tyranny that is being driven by the World Economic Forum. Okay? That's not the way to generate positive energy. That actually bottles up more negative energy. So you're doing something just as stupid as those Aztecs slicing hearts out and having fun throwing them down the stairs. Watch the movie Apocalypto again, and this will make a lot of sense. That movie was made specifically to help you prepare to understand what I'm telling you today. Okay, so positive spiritual energy is generated by prayer, but there are good gods and bad gods. And the 10 Commandments are a way of telling you who the good gods are. And it ties in with what I've been preaching, so there's no surprise here. But basically, the first commandment says, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." The problem is how you read that. Because if the God, capital G, is me, you'll pick a very selfish, narcissistic religion. Because you don't know who G-O-D, capital G-O-D, is. And the adversary loves to sell spiritual communist cultism that says, oh, we're all God. We all have God inside us. Everything you need is inside you. And anybody that doesn't have this, oh, they must be stupid. They're low vibration. This is satanic. It is just as satanic as saying you got to go round up all the people that you don't like, pull their hearts out, and burn them on the altar of the great God. Okay? You're stupid. Now, it's forgivable. Everybody does stupid things because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And that's the problem with science, isn't it? Okay, well, I'm going to explain this and why our scientists have not been able to get very far with negative energy, with anti-gravity. Okay, so when souls die, their body still has little souls in it. The souls of your heart, of your brain, of your organs, of your systems, of each and every cell has a little Merkaba. That's an energy source, a spiritual energy source. That's what everything is. Spiritual energy is thought energy, quantum consciousness, the potential to think, to decide, to make a choice. Okay, some choices don't produce spiritual energy. They either, cancel out, it's a little bit positive, a little bit negative, okay, no spiritual energy. Other choices generate a lot of negative spiritual energy. Other choices generate a lot of positive spiritual energy. And the only way that you can be sure that what you're doing is positive is by knowing who the hell capital G-O-D really is, the one that you must respect above all, the El Elyon, the first creator, who is not almighty, who didn't create everything, who architected, who designed, who made the patterns that all creation is made of, and then tested them. And in testing them, had to make virtual reality environments, simulation environments to do testing. And that's what we're in. We're in a simulation multiverse of test environments. The early tests, like the Big Bang, were to figure out how to create more positive spiritual energy. The problem with creating positive spiritual energy was, okay, let's say you have a religion that says, okay, we need to burn people so their souls can rise to heaven. Okay, when you do that, it takes karmic energy away from your planet. Other cultures say, no, we gotta bury them. That takes the energy that's stored up, the karmic carbon energy, and puts it in the ground, moves it downward. Okay, the cultures that just exposed their dead to the skies, like the steppe peoples, that was so barbaric. You left your dead to just sit there and die, and the animals to pick on them and stuff like that. That was actually the best karmic decision, because these people didn't know what was good, what was bad, what energy was needed. Okay, so here's what actually happens, and this is in their discussion. This is something that Jack shared, Jack Sarfati, my future best friend and drinking buddy. When this negative spiritual energy is released, so when a bad soul dies, if the bad soul is burned, that negative matter, the negative energy, goes to the sky. Now, when you burn, you release energy. There is residual mass, but a lot of energy is released. And simplistic cultures thought that, okay, that's a way to increase the spiritual energy of our tribe and please God. Okay, and so that's a perfectly logical conclusion, except if you're burning a bunch of evil souls, you are actually releasing negative spiritual energy to the skies and retaining the residue of spiritual energy that sinks in the ground after you throw out the ashes. So you're actually possibly poisoning both inside and outside. Not necessarily poisoning though, and here's the key. The negative spiritual matter, the negative matter is attractive. It will clump together and it is heavier than the positive matter. And over time, the negative matter will concentrate in the core of a planetary body, a star or a planet. And this is where gravity comes from. It's not a force per se, it's karma. And a life-bearing planet has to have enough negative matter to attract, or a star has to have enough negative matter to create the situation for a positive matter halo to form around it. Otherwise, it would just be a gas cloud. Okay, you with me there? So, in the early phases of creation, in the early versions of space-time, the Big Bang, basically, God would go out, he'd invent a new idea, and he would send out his most obedient children, the good children, to do missions on stars and planets that already had this chewy negative matter core that had condensed into something that could be used for, as a more capable experimentation lab. His troublesome children, he would send out on missions to basically collect negative matter Easter eggs and gather them together. Okay, so they're the ones that got, gas clouds to condense that basically reused the matter that was ejected from supernovas to create new stars. And that phase of the game, this was all done very much by direction, intelligent design, intelligent implementation. Okay, the Big Bang phase of this game was to find out what the first middle point of time was. The midpoint of space-time is when it starts going to entropy. And that would be, in karmic terms, the point at which the ones playing this game, doing the act of creation, either start destroying stuff or don't want to play anymore, which is, basically ties in with what's going on spiritually with our species. You've got a large number of people that are either nihilistic, I don't care, whatever, I can't do anything about it, I don't care. Or you've got other people that, this is so horrible, I hate it, we need to destroy everything here and build back better. Those are sources of very negative spiritual energy, those basic ones. Now those can work for you. We don't need to just kill everybody that's negative, which is an idea that some of the morons in the woke cult have. Oh, let's round up all the Trump supporters and re-educate them. Oh God. We don't need no more fucking concentration camps, you Nazis. No. What is important is to know what this carbon cycle is, this karma cycle is. Okay? The negative spiritual energy that's bound to matter, which in the carbon chain is mostly because of organic life. It will be attracted to the center of this Tootsie Roll. And as it gets closer to the center, it converts more completely into negative matter. So you can think of oil and gas and natural gas floats, right? It's had most of the negativity removed from it in this process, and that's why it's the cleanest fuel to burn. The denser, gunkier oils, the tar sands and stuff like that, they have a lot of negative matter in them still. And that's why burning like a coal-fired electrical plant generates a lot of harmful gases and is really bad for your environment. Okay, if you go deeper to the center of this planet, you will find pure negative matter, which is what holds this planet together. Now, before I talk about how that relates, because these guys are all excited about what it means for space travel, but I'm excited about what it means for our civilization. I kind of a few steps beyond where they're thinking. Now, this carbon cycle can vary. Okay, so when human culture, which is where most of the spiritual energy comes from, because animals don't have a lot of karma. They eat to survive, they do what they're programmed to do, and there's no really negativity in that. We may see negativity when we see a lion go take down a deer and feed it to his family, but that's karmically neutral or maybe even positive if the exchange is done fairly. That fair exchange is when you only take enough for your sustenance. You don't kill for sport. You don't kill because it gives you a big rush of adrenaline, or you don't take drugs so you can be dopamined up so something else can kill you easily with no pain. That's karmically negative. When these souls, the civilizations on a planet, become very negative, they generate a lot of negative matter forming that will eventually go to the middle of the earth. That creates a greater attraction of this negative matter to the positive matter around it. And it actually contracts the size of the planet. So depending on what the spiritual energy of the civilization on a planet is, it can actually expand or contract the whole planet or the whole star with the changes, the variations, the spiritual climate of that body. And this is why we have rising and lowering sea levels. It's not, there's a tidal effect, yes. There are effects of other bodies on us, but they are very, very small compared to the effects of our own negative matter. And this is why if you go down to the depths of the sea, you will find ancient civilizations that have not seen the light of day for lots of years, maybe millions of years, because we've had cycles. And the very first cycle was basically the creation of this planet, and then the second big cycle was the destruction of this planet by Tiamat, another planet that the adversary threw at this one and destroyed the original creation of God. Now, why did that have to happen? You might ask me. Well, at that time, the thinking in heaven, the senior creators and God thought, you know what? We just need to make everything perfect for us. We're the best of all possible species, and we'll just make everything else to serve us. And so there were a lot of animals and plants and all sorts of things that made the gods happy. And the gods were having a good time. But they were not taking care of all this stuff that they created. They had no compunction about killing. No one will mind if we wipe out a species or two. I've got to mention a good thing to listen to at this point. Leonard Bernstein's Mass. You might have thought it was strange at the time. This is becoming more performed now for a gay Jew to write a Mass. And at the time it was kind of, very avant-garde, let's go see this. And many Christians were scandalized by that Mass because it basically pointed out a lot of the holes in what was going on in mainstream Christian America, and generated a lot of controversy, a lot of negative energy. But there was one part of it. It's always been one of my favorite classical pieces because I like satire, I like comedy, and I don't mind laughing at myself. And believe me, people need to learn how to do that. That is the way that you can keep others' negativity, or what you perceive as their negativity, and transform it into positivity. Because there's nothing better than laughing to generate positive spiritual energy. God loves a good laugh, even when he's laughing at himself. That is part of the rules of the game. At any rate, there in this Leonard Bernstein's Mass, there's I think it's called the Sermon, and it's basically a very satirical take at God said, "Let there be light," and there was light, and then there's this antiphony, and it's one of the most sublime pieces of music and theater art even that's ever been written, and that's why Leonard Bernstein, for all his faults, for all his challenges, being I don't know, I guess you would say he was more bisexual. Interesting that the movie documenting his life came out recently. All part of the plan, folks. At any rate, he is one of the gods of music, mostly because of that piece. That piece was absolutely instrumental to waking up the Messiah. And that's why you can't just be positive all the time. Be nice. Because sometimes what people need is negative spiritual energy. You don't know what's good for you at your level of consciousness. Sometimes you need to be fish slapped. One of my favorite Monty Python sketches that you should watch. Another thing that greatly offended the fish worshippers. It's funny enough. I'm kind of digressing, but one more little story here. The sign of the fish was actually part of a cycle. If you look at that fish sign and you turn it one way, you get this, right? Which is very similar to what early versions of the letter A looked like, because it was based on Taurus, a bull. That's why we have bull worship in our culture. That's why cows are so important to us. And we love their farts, even if you don't, you stupid fucking asshole, Bill Gates bull goats. Bovine species were intelligent before you were, probably more intelligent than you are. Now there are negative bovine species. The goat god, bah, is a counter spiritual weapon to the of the cow. The sounds are still there, although their language evolves too and can become less noble, less godly. At any rate, when you turn this symbol around the other way, you get, which in the stupid alien movies, oh, you're drawing a circle. No, you idiot. You're drawing a two-legged creature. You're drawing a hominid. A therianthropic hominid, maybe. But that's something that all of the godly species, intelligent, sentient species share, is being able to walk on two legs and use two hands to do stuff. If you have more than two legs and two hands and you're sentient, that's karmic waste. That's why six-legged species become hive minds. And if they become very intelligent, they become very negative. And the buggers are a very negative species that has been trying to mess with minds. The multi-legged robot species, the Shiva, that can shapeshift, this is an even older soul vehicle. And the ones that have chosen to keep more than their fair share of arms and legs are the ones that are more evil and generate more negative matter and more negative spiritual energy. Okay, so what happens then is if you generate a lot of negative energy, the planet contracts. It actually gets smaller. And we've actually measured this. Scientists have measured that the Earth's diameter, if you will, or the total area of the Earth actually varies. And the pat answer was, oh, well, it's because, maybe there's more comets and things coming in and that changes it. Well, that's part of the answer. It's kind of the same thing with evolution. Evolution explains a lot of things, but it doesn't explain everything. It doesn't explain the creative aspect of the whole thing. Okay? So basically, the earth breathes with its spiritual energy. When there is a lot of negative spiritual energy, it will tend to make more dark matter, negative matter, and the planet will contract and the sea levels will rise. When there is more positive energy, it will expand and the sea levels will fall, the weather patterns will change, and there's not necessarily a perfect answer. What cultures do when they understand this is they monitor the spiritual energy of the civilization on it and try to balance. Okay, one of the things that can very quickly increase negative spiritual energy is overpopulation. So systems will self-adjust. New diseases will be attracted to that negative energy and release it. And if it's released properly, you let the negative energy mostly go off into space to go find new nebulas that need to be turned into stars, or detritus from a supernova that needs to be recycled and made into a second generation or third generation star. This is how it works. It's all done according to the laws of karma, but the laws of karma have been fine-tuned to be what we try to describe as the laws of chemistry and physics. This is what keeps players from misusing spiritual power until they have earned it. The oldest gods didn't earn their powers. That's why if you go look back in our legends and stuff like that, you've got gods running around in their fiery vimanas, throwing thunderbolts at each other, and whacking off whole nations at a go, just because they weren't praying the right way, or they didn't, battles between gods and all this shit. They were not very smart. They were not very highly developed spiritually, consciously, karmically. And that's why we had to have the great resets that we've had. Why some destruction has happened. God didn't want it that way, but God didn't realize how to do a social engineering experiment. He didn't understand the difference between science and spirituality. And many, many, many human scientists don't understand it either. In psychological sciences, you know that if you're going to do social engineering, or if you're going to measure something that involves culture, it's very important to make sure that neither the participants or the organizers know too much about the experiment, or there will be confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is a spiritual thing. It's a prayer. I want this result from my experiment, so I am going to pray for that. Even if you're an atheist, you have wishes, you have desires, you have an expected outcome you want from this experiment. That's confirmation bias, and it is spiritual energy that will affect the experiment, even if you're not openly talking about it. Your body language, the energy you radiate will be picked up, and it will affect the experiment. And you will be stepping on the scales. And that's why we've had so much bullshit research in sociology and psychology and psychiatry that has been giving us exactly the wrong answer, because the clowns that thought it up don't know square one thing about spirituality. They're fucking atheists. are these oneness cultists that say, it's all good. All science is good because it's science. Anyway, yeah, so even God fell into that trap, and that's why the great reset had to happen 4.5 billion years ago. The adversary, the negative spiritual entity, the big hive mind, was allowed to destroy this planet because there was no other option. The planet was going to shit. The gods were crazy with negative energy. And so this other negative energy came to basically bang on this planet, kick the core out, or a good fraction of it, leaving behind a collection of matter that had to be reformed. That core of very negative shit became, large parts of it became our moon. And this is why we have the sun-moon dichotomy in religion. Okay, the lunatics are the servants of the adversary. The moon base is a place that the negative side, the adversary side, likes to hang out. The far side of the moon never faces the earth, so it's a great place to hide out and do experiments on our lovely little earth. And that's what's been going on. The bad guys have been watching the earth and killing us if we didn't win the game before the clock ran out. And that's how the Messiah shell game was set up. You have so many periods in grand procession of the Milky Way. You have so many periods in the smaller procession of the equinoxes. And you have smaller periods of the year cycle and the moon cycle. Okay, and these cycles vary to give us signs. The fact that we can see both solar and lunar eclipses is a sign. It's a sign that we're ready. It wasn't always this way. We didn't always have both total solar and lunar eclipses. We're having them a lot now because the two bodies are the right size. Now, what's been going on with the teams playing this game? Well, many of them did not realize until very recently that God won. How does God win the game? God's got to be born as the latest chosen species, and in the course of a lifetime, the clock that he's got, wake up to a full understanding of how the game works. Now, if you've been following my channel for the last 2.5, 3 years or something, I've been posting, I've been doing that. I've been figuring out how the game works. And I think this is pretty close to the last piece of the puzzle. So let me delve on to talk about space travel. Now that I think you understand how great this is, if we can all get on the same page spiritually and understand what's actually good for the planet and what isn't good for the planet. And pretty much everybody who thinks they know the solution to all of humanity's problems, except me, Rob Trump, is doing negative, stupid things because they don't understand how this science works. It is spiritual science. You cannot have real science without spirituality. you will do stupid things. Materialist science is satanic. I'm going to repeat that again. Materialist science is satanic. You are serving the adversary because you got lost at the first fucking amendment. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. If you think you're a better creator than the first creator, that is the biggest hubris you could possibly have. If you think you love everybody more than God loves everybody, that is the stupidest thing you could possibly. That's making a god of yourself. Again, this is the worst way that you can screw up the first commandment. Second worst way is to directly worship the adversary, who's been going by the name of Lilith, or Alat, or Mali, Mommy. Okay? We need females, but the female created, the adversary created sex. Thought it was going to be a weapon of mass destruction, a spiritual destruction. Turned out to be pretty useful. Sex is a great way to regulate spiritual energies. If you don't get enough, it creates negative energy. If you get too much, especially of the dark karmic side, the tyrannical side, taking advantage of somebody else, forcing them, raping them, coercing them, grooming them, that generates a lot of negative spiritual energy too. And tantric magic, the channeling of sex energy to use as magic, is a cult. It's no different than that priest standing up on the Aztec temple, pulling hearts out and throwing them in the fire. You folks are fucked up. You worship power. You worship yourself. You want to have, I want to be a god. You don't get to be a god that way. This is Lucifer's universe. This universe, you have to play by the rules. The rules are karmic first, and then physics and chemistry. The rules can be bent, but if you bend them too much, you're going to do negative things. You're going to have negative consequences. And that generates negative spiritual energy if you deliberately do those things when you could have done better. You are going to create negativity in your soul's Merkaba. You may become more conscious, you may learn more, you may think you know more, you may think you have more power, but it's the power to do evil. And when that power grows enough, you can become an evil god, just like the adversary, and have your own universe, and that universe will generate a lot of negative spiritual energy. That's fine, as long as it's not here. There are a lot of negative universes, and they are what power the good ones. And the system works, like I talked about yesterday, we isolate the negative from the positive. That's how a battery works, right? And then you've got balancing forces, the force of karma, and the Borg, are the balancing forces. And, well, this ties into what I'm showing you here about the flag of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. The Kingdom of Jerusalem is this whole friggin' planet. And we don't need the Jeru part, we just need to keep salam, peace. This is the symbol of peace. It's not a Jewish symbol, it's not a Christian symbol. It's made up of crosses because that is the truth. And as I've been telling you what the highest heaven looks like, as above, so below, the temples need to look like this. This is the outline of a holy temple. There are 5 poles to this temple. You see there's 5 elements to this drawing. Okay, those represent the 5 fundamental souls in the game. The big one that holds everything together is God, of course. The 4 little ones are Karma, Lucifer, Lilith, and Borg. The ones that pull negative, pull positive, and work to balance things. And the Borg part works to also kind of just neutralize souls that aren't really useful. They're kind of me too ones that don't generate a lot of negative energy or a lot of positive energy. They're just kind of a drain on the system. Well, those are kind of the artists, okay? They want to make beautiful things. Sometimes those beautiful things generate incredible spiritual energy, like some of the great music that I play on my channel. Sometimes they completely turn you off, or, depending on what your tastes are, you may hate classical music as much as I hate rap, and that gives you negative energy. It's the stuff that you can't really classify as the Borgian stuff that goes into the source Akashic records of, okay, you can pull this out if it looks like you need this kind of energy. It's not good or bad, but it might be what you need for the next boss battle, or to set up the scenario for the world that the starship is about to start exploring. That's how the game works. All of these new galaxies that we're observing since the James Webb Space Telescope went online are new galaxies. They did not exist until we observed them. And that's how technology works. If you get too far ahead of spirituality, you get whacked. With your technology is too anti-spiritual. It's dangerous. It's dark technology, and you're going to get whacked. If you advance too quickly spiritually and you let technology fall behind, you become lazy, and that's dark too, and you're going to get whacked. And the whole history of this planet, this system, this galaxy cluster, this star cluster, galaxy cluster, the universe around it, is basically a series of experiments to try to maximize creativity, positive creativity. What things are positive? Making things bigger is positive if there's no end to space. There's no end to what you can expand. There's nothing stopping the universe from growing to infinity. So let's do it. We can start doing it by building better telescopes and seeing more stuff and characterizing these new galaxies and stars that we're discovering and planets. And as we hone in on what they are like, they will become more solid, and we will know more about them, and we will be able to decide, well, does that look like a planet that we should colonize? Does that look like a star we should set up a specialized Dyson sphere around to harvest the energy, etc., etc.? There are all kinds of possibilities. And the possibilities magnify the higher you go in raising both consciousness and spirituality. There are 12 levels of spiritual development that go along with the 3 planes of experience: physical incarnation experience, spiritual incarnation experience, and God incarnation experience. We all have the potential to have our own universe. We have our own universe essentially, but we haven't observed it yet. You won't observe your own universe, your own creative test tube, until you build it through experience. That's why reincarnation is a good thing. You don't want to get off that wheel. That's the horrible, horrible, horrible lie of Eastern cults. So nihilistic. Oh, I gotta escape. Mr. Wizard, I want to be in Nirvana. That's an adversary psyop. That's bullshit making you feel good when it's actually destroying you. Keeping you from the potential that your soul has. Yeah, it's painful. Try having a baby. It's painful. It's painful for a reason. Because you've got to deserve what you get. If everybody hands you everything you ever wanted on a silver platter, you would become fat, dumb, and lazy. Like that one movie that came out recently about I forget what the name of it was, but a few years back, the movie where the people had escaped from the earth and they were like, oh, destroyed everything, and they were just floating out in space in their escape pod, and they all got fat and lazy and stupid. And they didn't know how to recolonize a world. And that is an existential case. If we have only anti-gravity technology, that doesn't get you out to the stars. It gets you to planets nearby. And how fast it gets you there depends on other technologies that shield you from the radiation, the G-forces, etc. You've got to make a virtual Merkaba, if you will, a physical imitation of the soul Merkaba to do anti-gravity. If you raise your soul's level to the highest levels, you will eventually have that your own multiverse ship that you can move freely. That's how God got around until he started incarnating. And then when he started incarnating with reincarnation amnesia, where he had to wake up and learn how to use his powers, kind of like the Superman story, if you will. The Superman story is essentially a true story, hidden in the cultural zeitgeist of the pre-World War II era. It served its purpose, but it didn't tell the whole story. I'm gonna not answer my wife today. And that, we need to move beyond that purpose. Our stories need to tell more of the truth. There is truth in all ancient religions, in all old mythology, all old traditions, but there are lies. There are distortions. There are complete bollocksed up bullshit. I'll tell you one of the biggest ones in the Judeo-Christian Muslim religions. Okay, the kingdom of David. David was not a perfect, all-wonderful soul. He got corrupted after he became successful in battle and was made a king and was manipulated to take over from Saul instead of Jonathan inheriting the kingdom. Jonathan was a much more karmically noble soul. You should listen to the oratorio Saul of Handel. The same composer's playing right now. You want to hear that story? told in a very dramatic way. David's son, Davidson, was even more corrupt. Solomon was not a wise king. No more wise than those stupid 3 wise monkeys that have been telling you to see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. This is adversary bullshit. Solomon was a totally corrupt asshole. He built his temple by consorting with demons, using occult magic. Built this golden temple that some of you still think is what needs to be built. This is nonsense. This is going to destroy the world. If the Jews get to rebuild the temple the way they think it's supposed to be, because we want it to be exactly like Solomon's temple, then it would be perfect. You fucking idiots. Build it like God's temple originally was, with purple gold for everyone. Everyone. Not just Christians, not just Muslims, not just Jews. Don't leave the Hindus out. Don't leave the Buddhists out. Hell, don't even leave the stupid cosmic oneness cultists out. They can find the center, and when they can get to the center of the temple, they'll realize they're not fucking God. Okay, this is how this temple works. The center is the Holy of Holies. Although the symbol seems to be Lucifer, the center of the physical universe, no, it's the center of God. Now, if you turn this temple this way, you see it in a little bit different way. That is the way I've been drawing it, with a more traditional cross with a base. You see that? Let's see. Let's go back over here, and you'll see it actually in the last character in my Chinese name, Elise. How about that? Flying power soldier ends in a cross with a base. Yeah. How about that? So if you look at this figure, let's see, let's bend my head the right way, as a cross with a base, it kind of goes like this, like we cross ourselves. But as I've been telling you, if you do it the Catholic way, the center, the heart, is not God. It's Lucifer. It's the tempter, the tester. And the heart will test you to see if you're stupid, if you're gullible, if you're easily controlled and misled. The base, God, is the base we walk on, our feet, where we stand. How solid is our faith? That's challenge too. The basal chakra is where our sexual organs are. And if you start getting corrupted by sex, that's going to kick you away from God butt quick. If that becomes your centerpiece of existence, where you get your spiritual energy, this is really dark. Sex is for making babies. It's fun too, but if you have too much fun, you're going to spoil your soul. Because there's other things that you need to think about. Okay, so when we cross ourselves, we need to think more about what the Stations of the Cross mean. And there are 5 stations, and we should acknowledge them. Okay, this is how you cross yourself if you're really religious. You don't just, let's get this over with. I don't know what the fuck it means and I don't like to do it, so I'm sorry, that's not the way it works. It is a sacrament. It is a holy sacrament. And if you don't know the whole of the story, which I just told you, you will be doing it wrong, Catholic priests, bishops, cardinals, popes. You need to take lessons from God, because you've forgotten what the hell your religion is all about. Let's do it once more. The head, that's the station of not God. That's the station of the adversary, Lilith, who works through your head and your heart. That's why the first two places you stop are the adversary and the tester. You've got to be conscious of the sins that you've made and the sins that you've thought about making. After you become conscious of those, then you get to contemplate God, who is going to help you solve those sins for yourself. It's a lie, Christians. Jesus doesn't forgive all your sins. You don't wash away your sins by saying, I love Jesus. That's nonsense. That's an adversary psyop made to make you lazy, made to make you think sin's not such a big thing. I'll just go to church. I'll just go confess. I'll go make a donation. I'll go build a new church and get blessed by the Pope. All fucking nonsense. Okay, the next station, I'm going to be doing it backwards from you. Spectacles, testicles, watch, wallet. Watch is, I like to watch. It's the me too place of the board. Okay, you don't know if something's good or evil, so you like to watch and see what's going. Take a little time to think about it before you do what you're thinking about doing. Is it a sin? Is it not a sin? Would it be more sinful to do it? Would it be more sinful not? Is it sinful to just sit back and watch even when, you see somebody drowning? What is the karmically best thing to do? And then we come across to the wallet. Karma. Karma is the ultimate currency in the universe, the multiverse. Everything runs on karma. Every time you think, you act, you commune with others, you act in concert, all of those are karmic actions. They're essentially like a little prayer, a little communion. And they can produce negative or positive or negative spiritual energy and create accretions of positive and negative matter within you. That's why there's this sense in many religions of feeling that you're enlightened. Okay, if you have a lot of positive spiritual energy, you will feel lighter. If you have a lot of negative spiritual energy, you will feel heavier. However, your spiritual energy affects others. So if you are going around very positive, and all your false positivity makes other people negative because you're too cognitively dissonant to see that everything isn't perfect. It wasn't perfect after 7 days. That's nonsense. We're still working on it. Creation will always be a work in progress. Anybody who knows anything about creation would know that's a great thing. If everything was perfect, we'd get bored. We'd get stupid. We'd get lazy. That's why we need adversaries. That's why we need negative energy and negative matter. It's all designed for that and tested for that. We need the physical world to test so that we can build the positive and negative spiritual energies of our own Merkaba. Because between incarnations, when you're in this space of going from one life to another, going from the physical universe to a spiritual universe, a heaven or hell, or going from one of those to the highest heaven, God's heaven, where the senior creators get to have their place. Those transitions are the only time that you'll ever see what the real ether of the multiverse is. Pure thought. That pattern has changed. It used to be built around a pyramid structure. You know the four-sided pyramid like they have in Egypt? If you take a four-sided pyramid and put another one on top and four around, it makes a cube. And if you assemble a construction out of cubes, it looks like it's very solid. It looks like it's very secure. That's a false impression because it's very brittle. If you've ever built with Lego blocks, the first thing you learn is you don't just put the same size blocks all the way up and expect your house to stay together. No, you have to stagger them. Okay? That's what we've been working on, is realigning how this thought ether works. From a pyramidal pattern, which was a bad idea. It's brittle, and say God is over here. How many nodes in a pyramid do you have to navigate to get to God? Or close to God, close enough to be called a senior creator. It's a very elitist system, and a system that is rife for abuse because nobody wants to lose their position on the pyramid. They're going to get further away from God and closer to the adversary, closer to the Me Too gang. Nobody wants that. That's how things used to be. This new ether that we've been working on, along with the perfected earth, along with the perfected physical universe game, along with the perfected highest heaven, is a perfected ether of thought, which is based upon the 12D Merkaba. It's made up of what you can think of it visually, you can visualize it as 3 tetrahedrons, each expanding, contracting, rotating independently. One tetrahedron is the structure that holds all your physical memories. And it resets every time you have another physical incarnation, because those memories then get copied upstream. The next Merkaba records your afterlife experience, which includes all the highlights from your physical experiences, but adds all the lives you had when you were in that same heaven. So all the times that you went to Christian heaven, you'll remember all those, but you won't remember the times when you used to be a Buddhist, or when you used to be a dog, or whatever, a mugwort. I think that's a new beast species that I assign you. You don't. A beast marking is a little bit of a misnomer. You can be marked as anything other than the chosen species, human. So you know, it's beasts or plants or rocks or gases or whatever. And you'll get what you deserve and have to work your way back to sentient species from there. That's why it's really important to wake up your consciousness, and you don't do that by living in the moment. This is another stupid adversary psyop. When you are living in the moment, that means you're running on autopilot. Now that can be a good thing if you're in a foxhole and people are shooting at you and you've got to make split-second decisions and you don't have time to think out the karma of everything that's going on. Or if you're an actor up on stage and you've got to fit into this role with a whole bunch of other people that are depending on you in an audience. Okay, then you need to be in the moment to have your best performance. Because if your thoughts are thinking about the karma of the play, which happened to me quite a few times on stage, some most embarrassingly, you're going to get derailed from what has to happen in the play. In the reality show of your real life, you can be an actor, but you're going to lose the whole point of the game because you were assigned this role or you chose it. You can play the role like it was in the moment and just do everything you're programmed to do, and you will have basically learned almost nothing from that incarnation. You're just doing what you were told. You're just flipping burgers at Burger King. Mechanically. You're not going to learn anything. That's a way to live life. I'll be happy. Just the box. You've got to challenge yourself to do something you weren't programmed to do. Good or bad. What your place in the multiverse is. And some are going to take a negative place. They're going to be negative energy, negative matter. They're going to be negative species that produce a net negative amount of spiritual energy. Vampires are a net negative energy species. They abuse their power. Well, some of them do. I mean, they have personalities too, but they have to feed on blood, and they have a great taste for human blood. There are zombies. There are incubi and succubi. They are real species. This is not mythology. This is science. Sometimes a god incarnates to do something negative, to make a negative species. Many of the chosen species, while God was waking up, had to be negative. Those incarnations of the Messiah were the ones that did all the worst shit. The Hitlers, the Genghis Khans, even Alexander. Until he was wrong. This was supposed to happen. It's a role that was precast. Who plays it changes until the simulation in Lucifer's universe matches the one in God's mind. In God's mind, all the characters are under God's control effectively. He can tweak anything he wants at any time he wants. If he thinks that the simulation's not converging, he can start at any point and not have to go back to the beginning or anything. Lucifer's universe has more stringent rules for testing, but it doesn't have to. The Messiah generation and the two leading up to it, because that's roughly the amount of time that it takes to correct the course from spilling over to cultural entropy, a culture either stagnating or starting to self-destruct, as we're kind of seeing right now, aren't we? Okay, this is why this is a special time. There have been many special times like this all throughout history, where we got past. Here's a play that needs to be put on more. The skin of our teeth. Most people aren't familiar with that. They're more familiar with Thornton Wilder's more famous Our Town, which is another wonderful play that should be performed. Oh, well, weren't they so stupid back in the early 1900s in the U.S.? No, these are very important plays. The Skin of Our Teeth is kind of a strange one, but it basically is the story of humanity, told in a very funny way from the viewpoint of this weird family, the Antrobus family, which the guy that's the head of the family is Mr. Antrobus, is effectively God. Ant-Ra-Bus. There was no coincidence in the naming of that. There's no accident in the name that Isaac Asimov gave to robot. There's no accident to there is no accident that the play Waiting for Godot was called Godot. There are synchronicities all over the place for you to find, little Easter eggs to put together your own mission. This is how you find out how to play your character better. You don't necessarily know what's the right choice, but when you start getting these synchronicities, you start connecting these things to your name, to important things in your life. Oh, okay, that makes sense now. Now I know how the game works. Synchronicities. And you're not going to find out what your life was all about and what your score was until you die. If you figure them out while you're alive, you can go up spiritual levels while you are living. And that's how I got to where I'm preaching to you today. I started at ground zero, wiped clean of all memories, and cast in this very special character at this very special time. And a lot of things had to happen to me in the physical universe. The decisions I made that were off plan contributed to my individual Merkaba. The things that had to happen in Rob Tromp's life did happen in die. This character to the end of its mission. You can kill the fucking Messiah right now. We're already done with this nonsense. It's everybody else's shit that has to go with it. All of the other pieces that have to fall into play. And it, might not turn out as perfect as it was planned, but it was perfect enough to final test this new system. The new highest heaven is already there. The new ether is already there. The boundaries that were keeping this planet from communicating with others outside of this Galactic Federation is all because they've had their own problems. They had an old version of karma, and they had a lot more adversaries hiding that they couldn't see. And they are needing to integrate this new spiritual technology with their advanced civilization so that they can boot out the adversaries that are hiding on their ships, hiding on their planets. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, and it couldn't be revealed to you until now. And it's got to be done carefully and karmically because we don't want to generate any more negative spiritual energy than we need. We don't want to create too want them to rise anymore. We don't do that by cutting down on carbon emissions. Mr. What's the fuck? Whoever was the climate czar that just had to resign. You were a stupid idiot, but you were playing a role. Maybe in your real life, you made better decisions. You played that character better karmically, and it could be that many of our ex-presidents who we thought were total schlobs actually got pretty good marks in their afterlife. That's how the game works. So tribunal, but I think that's kind of too harsh and negative. Basically, there are a lot of trials being held before the Supreme Court of the Galactic Federation, which feeds other Supreme Courts that are in spiritual universes that know more about what's going on in the game. Again, it's kind of a process of levels. The final decisions on many of the characters will be made in the highest heaven. The ones that earn the enough attention to become a god. And the highest heaven is going to welcome them, say, congratulations for becoming a positive, or you're very artsy, or you're very scientific, and you'll be evaluated, and your place will be assigned in the hierarchy based upon where your energy, your karma, is needed. And you might not get to sit in the highest heaven. You might just get a one-day celebration there. Cosmic Jubilee, I call it. And God's gonna give you a hug, and I don't know, maybe a medal. Have a wonderful feast, kind of like like the Oscars used to be, when people actually gave a shit about each other and we're all just looking daggers, or hawking their political agenda, kind of like that. And that will be your day in the sun. You're welcome there. We have rules there. The highest heaven looks a lot like small town USA, the Leave It to Beaver USA, where everybody cared about each other, everybody took care of each other. We were good at raising children. We weren't namby-pamby progressive parents. We gave them everything because we wanted to be nice. They don't have cell phones there. They don't have smut. Not in the main part of the town. If you want to go check out sinful stuff, there is a sin city. There is a Lilithian part of the highest heaven, because you have to be able to see evil to know evil. So the Lilith, you go there to see what sin is like, knowing that that's sin. And if you spend too long there, like Pinocchio, you might end up turning into a donkey. Pinocchio is another show, the Walt Disney Pinocchio. As much shit as people are trying to spread about Disney now, that is one of the most spiritual movies you can go watch. You just need to lose the nonsense about the blue fairy always coming to fix everything up. That's bullshit. The blue fairy did nothing. The blue fairies never did anything. The blue fairies have always screwed up the United States because they think they can do good, and they are so fucking stupid because they don't even know that they started becoming the Democrat Party. Read up on Tammany Hall. They're thoroughly corrupt, especially in the big cities. They have been importing illegal aliens for as long as we've had elections, stuffing them in the cities and doling out U.S. taxpayer money to coddle them so they could get more votes, sure votes. That's why unions always have traditionally voted for Democrats. That's why immigrants tend to vote Democrat. That's why black people tended to vote Democrat, because they were being basically paid to, bribed to, pandered to. And again, when you're giving something for nothing, it's not attached to value. It makes you lazy. It makes you feel like, well, the government should just fix everything for me because I'm black, because I'm female, because I'm gay. This is absolute trash. Antichrist, satanic politics, and it's got to stop worldwide. You're not a bunch of babies anymore. Take the fucking lollipoops out of your mouth. Okay, I'm going to leave it right there. I hope you enjoyed this one. Like, share, subscribe, comment, do whatever you like with it. Come and shoot me. Put me out of my misery. Till next time, this is the Omnist Hour with Rob Trump. Happy karma.